Truthspresso, episode 129.
Face it, we all would rather sleep in this morning. That's why God gave us espresso, to kickstart our zombified corpses into hyperdrive. And now, giving your mind and soul the morning shot of truth it craves. This is Truthspresso with Daniel Minnick.
Well, hey there, this is Daniel Minnick, your host for Truthspresso, and this episode is yet another Truthspresso Express. And Truthspresso Express is where I have the fun of jabbering away while driving to or from work in this case. And it seems like most cases I'm driving to work. It seems like I study in the evening a little bit, read a little bit, and then I'm ready to record on the way to work, but I'll work out some episodes. Other than, I think it was one of them where I was driving home that I recorded a Truthspresso, but I'll try to get some more of those. No, actually it was two. Okay. But, so yes, this is another Truthspresso Express. Just got out of the lot and onto the street, headed to the main street, which will then take me to the highway on the way to work. And now what to talk about on this exciting commute to work? There's a lot in the news and stuff, of course, about our favorite virus, and so let's talk more about COVID vaccines. And I've got two articles to discuss a little bit, and really in this one, to see how the two articles kind of present contradictory things. So the first article I want to talk about is one that I was reading about the NBA. And it talks about, staff at the NBA that are vaccinated, they're afraid that health risks, they're afraid of the health risks that would come from some of the players that are not yet vaccinated, because it appears that the NBA staff, coaches and anyone else who would happen to be staff for the team, not the players themselves, but those who behind the scenes and stuff make the games happen. And with the staff, there has been the mandates for the staffers to get the vaccines, but the players might be in, a sports union and stuff, and so the players haven't been mandated as much as the staffers would like them to be. And of course, so coaches and other staff are frustrated. They think it's not fair. Not fair that they don't think it's not fair in the sense that, hey, I don't want to be forced to be vaccinated. They think it's not fair in that every single player should receive these jabs. So the article says that some of these staffers were really concerned that there would be health risks to them or their families because of unvaccinated NBA players. And, the article will go through and list a few of the players by name who have yet to receive one of the jabs, and the players would give their reasons, and some of them might be more open to receiving it, but they still haven't fully, considered whether it's worth it for themselves or not, and other ones would be a little more strongly against it and just say, I have the right to make the choice for myself. But those who've gotten the jab, which the jab is supposed to protect you from the virus in some sense, are afraid that the ones who haven't gotten the jab, those few players who haven't gotten the jab, are a health risk, not to themselves. No, it's not about those players, as at least according to the article. Nothing in the article that I saw was complaining like, hey, you are risking your health. Jordan, I know it's not Michael Jordan anymore, but you get the idea. You're risking your health, and we can't afford that because you're a star player, and you're really making it difficult for us because there's a risk that you might end up in the hospital and the games won't be able to continue well without you, or we'll have to explain to angry fans. No, it's not about that. It's not about the fear that the players who haven't gotten the jab are going to get COVID and cause problems. Which you think that's what it would be about, like take the jab allegedly for your benefit, and we need you to do that for your benefit. No. The absurdity of all of this is that the coaches and the staffers are complaining about the health risks to them and to their families, and that there's nothing in the article where the coaches that are whining about this are saying that their families haven't been vaccinated, and that so an unvaccinated player could give them the virus, and they who have been vaccinated might spread it as they don't experience the symptoms, and then give it to their unvaccinated family who could then have problems. No. It's obvious that the coach is going to be vaccinated, encourage their family to be vaccinated, and so if the coach is vaccinated and his family is vaccinated, then why is he complaining about unvaccinated players spreading the virus and harming them? Doesn't anyone think through the absurdity of this? Like, if the vaccines are something that everyone must take to get rid of the virus, then why are the vaccinated complaining that the unvaccinated are the ones that are going to harm them, the vaccinated? Of course, things have changed. The science has certainly changed very quickly in a matter of months. Remember early on this year, I mentioned in a previous episode, remember the commercials that we'd see, we have one shot to get things back to normal, one shot, and now the one shot has turned into, the effectiveness wanes after a few months, and some experimental jabs are like the Moderna is more reliable than the Pfizer one, even though the Pfizer one is currently the one that's FDA approved in some label. But when it comes to get the jab, no one's saying get the Moderna jab. It's just get the jab, which could be any of them. And naturally people are going to want the FDA approved one, right? Why is there all this mandate for people to get a jab that doesn't allow them to sue if there are any complications? And of course, that's just a conspiracy theory that there's enough risk that someone who'd say, I'd rather get the COVIDs and suffer through that because I'm in good health, but I don't want blood clots, I don't want some of these other things. Remember, Eric Clapton lost some use of his arms for at least a few days, and that could be a one-off case, but there is the legitimate concern. So it's ridiculous that you have to mandate people to take something that's still not entirely FDA approved, so that they're still experimental, is under emergency authorization that doesn't allow you any kind of legal recourse if there are any adverse effects. Isn't that afoul of the Nuremberg Code? That no one should be forced, like in Nazi Germany, to take experimental medications or surgeries or procedures. But yeah, that's just a conspiracy theory thing. Now, I will say this: I am not someone who likes to support conspiracy theories. I'm not someone who sees a Rothschild behind everything. I'm not someone who's going to say, oh, well, Bill Gates' 6th grade English teacher's second cousin, 10 times removed from both sides, is a Jesuit, 50 and a half degree in the Masonic Lodge, behind 9/11 as an inside job, who murdered JFK. That's just not who I am. But I'm always going to suggest that power corrupts, and people need to realize that those who have power are not angels. And if you give people power such that you are not allowed to question anything, you're not allowed to challenge motivations with just uninhibited power, then like what, are we replacing God with human gods, that somehow someone with power, a company with power, those creating the jabs who are raking in the billions, that they're just angels? Or even if they're not angels, somehow their lust for money, their ability to make lots of money, can be completely divorced from the scientific mind of creating the jabs. Like, you've really got to think about it. Like, if you take someone, there were a lot of scientists in Nazi Germany or in communist Russia who were behind medications. So, and you might think, well, this is the good old USA, and we're the ones. Wait, no, sorry, the jabs don't really come with a label made in the USA. So that can't be an excuse. But yeah, just because we're the good old USA doesn't mean that there aren't people in high places who have ulterior motives, or at least have the motive to make money, and so at the very least they don't care if there are adverse effects, as long as they're protected from being sued and so on. And they just want to make the money, and if there are problems that happen, they can put up their hands and say, well, sorry, we're legally protected from that because we were just civil servants, we were just servants doing our job, trying to rush this out to you. Be thankful you had any kind of thing any kind of measure against this horrible virus. That's the risk you take with such rapid access to a vaccine. You just gotta thank us because we got it out to you quickly. You can't bite the hand that feeds you, and that's just the consequence, the possible risk of having something that goes out. And you could say, well, then why was there so much pressure? Why was there such a mandate to take this? If there was such a risk. But anyway, back to the article. A coach complained that he was afraid he could end up catching this virus, one who was jabbed, and that he would give it to his family, and especially his vulnerable parents, who I'm guessing were jabbed. Of course, the article doesn't say, but, if they weren't jabbed, you think this coach would be saying, I'm trying to encourage my parents to get this jab, but they are refusing, and now I'm in this difficult situation. No, I'm pretty sure this coach, who's so for the jab, is, his family all have the jab, but he's concerned that the unjabbed are going to give him the virus, and he's going to transmit it to his family, who are going to suffer and possibly die, who likely also have the jab themselves. So, yeah, remember President Joe Biden said it's a pandemic of the unvaccinated, and somehow the vaccinated have everything to fear from the unvaccinated. There's the propaganda that the hospitals are at capacity all the time now because of the unvaccinated taking up all the beds. But there's also the propaganda that, if everyone doesn't get the jab, those few that don't get the jab, they're putting the health of the jabbed at risk. And no one seems to bat an eye that this is unusual. Like, when have the vaccinated ever had to fear that their vaccines don't work unless the unvaccinated also get vaccinated? Like, once we all have the jab, then the jab is effective. But yes, this coach expressed his deep concern that he said something to the fact that this is a real thing. Breakthrough infections are a real thing. Well, if they are, then why would the unvaccinated be to blame? Because, and I'm gonna have links to articles as well in the show notes that, in May, in June, there were articles trying to quell the criticism that, the vaccines didn't do the job. Like, they helped prevent the spread of the virus. But you go to later July and August, then you see a lot of articles talking about that the CDC says that the jabs don't prevent the spread, or they no longer prevent the spread, and even those who've gotten the jab should wear masks indoors. And so then, I remember you see the commercial of the woman wearing the mask at her job in some kind of factory, and she's wearing the mask, and then it shows her take the jab, and then she's almost like she's flexing and showing her arm with the band-aid there, that look at me, I'm doing my part, I got the jab. And you're expecting that she should take her mask off, but nope, she's still wearing her mask, proudly doing her job, proudly getting the job and wearing the mask. And so you have to wonder, well, what's the point? What's the point of the jab if you can't remove the mask? What's the point of the mask if it isn't a choice to avoid the jab? And then, so you got to wear a mask indoors anyway again, and you've got to get 2 jabs depending on the provider, and you got to get the booster shots, knowing that maybe the booster shot at maximum gives you 8 months, and at minimum 3 months. And so maybe we have to keep taking these jabs, these booster shots, so-called, and in the process of keep getting jab for some arbitrary length of time while still having to wear masks, doesn't anyone start to question? Because remember, the science has changed. The science was 15 days to flatten the curve. The science then was was also, well, keep on social distancing, only essential businesses, and stay 6 feet apart. And, it's ridiculous. You don't need to wear masks. Remember Fauci said that. And of course, well, then it was, I only said that because we need all the masks for medical professionals to do their job. Citizens should not be looking to wear masks. And then it was, no, okay, now we need masks. Now we should mandate that everyone wear masks and, wear the blankety blank mask. And then remember Operation Warp Speed under President Trump, and in the vice president debate where Kamala Harris said that she wouldn't trust any vaccine that came from Trump, but now those same vaccines were pushed early this year, and the idea was, hey, this could be the way to end it, because if you get the jab, you're protected against, the current strain and all variants pretty much in perpetuity. So it's the panacea there. And then it quickly turned into, it prevents the spread, but it doesn't protect you against the Delta variant as much as with the original one. And then it turned, just got to get over a lane here, traffic's kind of heavy. And then, now it's, so we need booster shots. And then it's like, well, maybe we might need continuous booster shots. And yeah, you still got to wear the mask. And doesn't anyone start to ask, okay, why should I trust the science if the science changes every month or so? And some of the people who were protesting some of this stuff, yesterday's conspiracy theorists or today's, just rebels refusing to do what they were predicting was going to happen. And they need to be ostracized. Okay, so that was one article. The coaches were afraid, the vaccinated are afraid of the unvaccinated, and the players, 90% of them, that's a good percentage, 90% of them are vaccinated, but the staffers want 100%, of course, because if you don't have 100%, then we're all at risk, you see, because that's how effective the vaccines are. And now another article I read was actually talking about a pill to treat COVID-19. And it even says that, about we're talking about something that may take us to normal life again. Woo, sounds interesting. So it starts off talking about this couple in their 40s who got COVID and were afraid that they might die, and then they got contacted about this international development of this drug, this in pill form that they could take, that is under development, that could that could help fight COVID. And so they decided, why not? And they took it, or at least they think they took it, and then it wasn't long and their symptoms subsided and they recovered. And so, yeah, that was the beginning of this article. And then it's talking about how some companies are working on a pill, various drugs. Of course, it's like, ivermectin is just horse dewormer or animal dewormer, stuff like that, or hydroxychloroquine. We gotta make sure freaks don't take that, and because that'll harm them and stuff. But now some companies are developing a drug in pill form that could be effective against COVID-19. So what I found interesting is that somewhere close toward the end of the article, it mentions the clinical trials. So what do you need for the clinical trials? Well, you need people who are willing to participate. Just like how the jabs the clinical trials in a sense. We're the ones who were, yay, I want to take this. I know there's risks early on in the year. I want to volunteer to take it. And now, and now today it's like, okay, you need to be mandated to go to the clinical trial. President Joe Biden was losing his patience against the unvaccinated and the alleged 80 million Americans who haven't taken a jab. And it doesn't matter whether it's Moderna that's 91% effective or a Pfizer that's 42% effective. It doesn't seem to matter. Just get the jab. But, I digress from that. I'm just trying to remind us, because when we get to this article about pills in development, oral pills that you can take, that you can eventually possibly get a prescription to take that could fight the virus, and there's the clinical trials, and they're trying to call people, and so what do they need for the clinical trials? They need it. The article explicitly says they need people who are unvaccinated and who just recently tested positive for the virus. Unvaccinated and recently tested positive. Well, woohoo, isn't that something that we're not allowed to have? If with a president who's losing his patience and trying to pressure businesses, and you have the hospitals that are threatening and even firing medical workers for not taking the jab. But now you have an article in the mainstream media. There is nothing. This isn't Newsmax here. This is, the mainstream media with an article like, hey, there's other possibilities other than the jab because there's other things in the works. So we have a pill that, there's several of them in the works, but we have drugs possibly in pill form that could come out, and they're in clinical trials right now. But it does mention that they're having issues trying to get enough people to participate in the clinical trials. They're contacting people who are unvaccinated, who just recently tested positive, and calling them up and asking them, would you like to participate in this clinical trial for this, new drug that could help fight COVID? You could be a hero here. And a lot of them are saying no, the article says. Well, I wonder why. Just think, you have all this political pressure, these mandates, and, I read a few weeks ago, there was this opinion piece. I can't remember where it was at. I could look for it and find it and put a link maybe in the show notes for that one, but it wasn't unusual, but it was an opinion piece trying to say that, yeah, we should crank up the heat, we should put on the pressure on those few freaks that refuse to get the vaccine. Like, yeah, maybe they think they have a case, and this was like not long before the FDA was going to approve a labeled version for the Pfizer, and the article was saying, maybe that will encourage some people who are, vaccine hesitant finally to get it, because maybe that was the holdup for them. But the writer of the article said, yeah, but we all know that there are some people who that's not going to be enough. FDA approval's not good enough for them, and so they have their goofy religious reasons. But we know how to handle that. We need to crank up the heat. We need to make it harder for them to socialize. We need to make it harder for them to go to a restaurant or even find a job. Their job, they need to feel the pressure that life is going to get very, very difficult if they don't take the jab. And that's a good thing, because we all need to get this. We need to knock off this hesitancy or these conspiracy theories and make people forced to do it even if they really, really don't want to do it. and the impatient president and all that. And so, yeah, that's the background that we're dealing with when it comes to, hey, I just heard that you never got the vaccine and you just tested positive. We have that report here. And so, you're the kind of people we need for this drug. Now, a lot of them probably are like, no, I have mild symptoms. I didn't want the jab. I don't want a drug. I'm just going to recover and get my natural immunity. And maybe some of them who would would be glad to volunteer if it weren't for the politics. What if there is this hesitancy to think, I know what this is about. What? Am I going to be apprehended and thrown into jail? Am I going to be tricked? Is this a trick? Is this a gimmick here? How do I know that this is really for the good? This has got to be a way to ostracize me for refusing to take the jab. And that's the conundrum here. So all the pressure because of this idea that here's the solution that is a leaky vaccine that isn't very effective, but hey, it's only effective because if everyone gets the jab, and we've got to resort to legal measures here to get everyone to take the jab. And then, as we're talking about the free market here, at least somewhat, when you have something that could come out later that could be, hey, maybe we don't need to have a jab. Maybe there's another solution. And of course, there's solutions other than pills. There's solutions of, maintaining your maintaining your health, natural immunity, but you can't talk about that. But all I'm presenting with this second article is the idea that, hey, it's like shooting yourself in the foot. Let's mandate vaccines, these jabs, these mRNA therapies, and then later on, we need people who are unvaccinated and recently tested positive. Would you like to participate and be a hero in this clinical trial? And think when the criteria is that you're unvaccinated and you tested positive and, you need to say yes in a voluntary clinical trial, what, do you need? You need a lot of people who haven't gotten the jab and have tested positive, because only a small subset of that are going to be people who are going to volunteer for the clinical trial. So what do you need? You need a nice big population who fit that criteria so that you can have a small percentage of them that will be enough for a clinical trial. But the politics thus far haven't allowed for that. But yes, I've just parked at work, and so, two articles that really show how things conflict. This is the Vax Vex.
Thank you for waking up with Truthspresso. Good morning, and God bless your day.
Hey friends, Daniel Minnick here again. If you liked waking up to this episode of Truthspresso, I would really appreciate it if you would rate it on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or whatever application you use to listen to Truthspresso.